I was right. Welcome, fellow Gear Pothead, Joe Pal Putty Man here, and today I'm doing my Wandavision Episode 5 review and Easter eggs. Now, for those that might not be aware, I've already posted a video because I did a 30-minute review, of course, not ready to chop up and cut, and then my file stopped recording and got corrupted. And unfortunately, when it comes to doing reviews, you have to make sure that you get your review out there before anybody else, so that way you're not lost in the shuffle. So I made a quick review on one of my hypotheses on a big spoiler that happens at the end of this episode. So first and foremost, I'm going to say this. If you haven't seen this episode, you definitely need to see it before you watch my review. And then if you did watch the episode, this is going to be an in-depth review, and it's also going to prove one of my theories that I had when it came to mutants involved in the MCU, Inhumans and mutants cross-referencing, and how I knew who the secret cameo was going to be all along. Even when people said it wasn't going to be that, I knew it was, and I'll tell you why today. But before we get into that, if you can, make sure you hit the like button. Also, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. It helps out a small YouTuber like myself. If you haven't seen seen part 1, I am going to go ahead and put a link to one of those cards on the corner so you can go see that. And I'll have it on the other one as well to come back to it. But if you, I'm going to go into that what I said here as well. And hopefully what I sum up in this is going to sum up what you may have come from that episode to this episode to see. So, let's go ahead and get started with why I feel things are not what as they seem, and my idea might be the truth. Now, as we go into the episode, we see that the motif of the episode is, of course, 80s. And you remember episode 1, 2, and 3 was 50s, 60s, and 70s. So, of course, this would be 80s. And 90s is the next one, which fits so perfectly with our secret cameo character at the end. And if you don't know why the character at the end is so huge, not just based on the character itself, but based on the actor. Everything that's connecting is connected in a huge way that I think we are having a bigger connection that even Kevin Feige is telling us, because he's trying to make us look in a different direction, and I think the direction is exactly where I think. So, this whole review is going to go in depth with what I feel is happening and how they're going to combine the Fox universe with the MC universe. Now, at this point in the episode, we see that the babies are there. It's in the 80s, and Agnes comes over, clearly wearing like a workout outfit that's based in the 80s. Now, the reason I bring this up is because you hear Vision saying that he's very wary about them being touched. He's just being a typical father. But then Agnes says something key. She says, "Do you want me to take that again?" As in if she made a mistake in her lines. And Wanda kind of looks at her like, what? And the thing is, it's really weird how everything is. I think Wanda's getting things distorted, but this catches Vision's attention. Now, I thought this was going to be foreshadowing to episodes later, but boy, did this foreshadowing actually have to do with this episode. And that's where we get to this point where Tommy and Billy has grown up, or they force themselves to grow up. As we see through this episode, they have control in aging themselves, which means that these kids are aware of what's going on, and that makes it kind of wary of how it's gonna bring them into the MCU. Now, outside of Wanda's world, we see that Monica Rambeau has actually woken up in a medical facility of Sword, and they were able to bring back her clothes, things of that nature. Now, there's one thing I want to go and point out later on during this part of the episode. Now, as they're briefing about the whole situation with Wanda, you'll see that Hayward is here with Jimmy, and Hayward says, "Is there any code name for Wanda?" And Jimmy says no. Well, here's the thing. In the comic book, she's known as Scarlet Witch. But I have noticed that in the world of MCU, they've never stated her as Scarlet Witch. They just call her Wanda Maximoff. I'm sorry, but as Wanda. Anyway, my point to the whole thing is that this is kind of going down to the whole idea of her mutant name is Scarlet Witch, but her MCU name is Wanda. And this kind of goes into the whole thing that I'm going to get to later when it comes to secrets and hints that I feel in a lot of ways that the creators of this show are hinting at and saying, hey, if you're a comic book fan, you're going to be aware of this comic book and this hint or Easter egg we put in there, and it has to do with a later plot line of combining things together. And I feel like I'm opening Pandora's box finding this out. Also, I didn't get to mention that while they're having a conversation about Wanda, they also bring about her discussion of her parents. And if you're not aware, they actually state that her parents are Arena and Olaf Maximoff. I may have messed that up so badly, but that's not true. In the comic books, her actual parent, we only know one parent, which is her father, and that's Magneto. And you clearly know who Magneto is, but you also know that there's a reference to Magneto's son in the Fox X-Men universe, which goes back to the hidden cameo at the end, and why I feel what I'm talking about is so true, because with them, they clearly have pointed out her parents' names in this, particularly for a particular reason. We didn't need to know that. But for the comic book fans, we need to know that for what I think is my hypothesis and theory of the upcoming events. But anyway, let's continue. Now, at this point, we're talking about the incident that happened at Lagos, Nigeria. But if you notice, there's an Easter egg that's basically a Disney Easter egg that says A113. And if you notice below, I put a picture that says file A113. This is a reference to something that, to the classroom that a lot of big people like John Lasseter and Tim Burton worked at for graphic design in school, and their classroom was A113. That's just a little Easter egg I thought I'd tell you about. Now we're at the footage from Sword headquarters where Wanda is actually taking the corpse of Vision, which of course we see the corpse of Vision in episode 3. When he's got the hole in his head and everything. But there's a major reason why I'm bringing this up, because this is one of those Easter eggs I feel like is filling in a hole in general for something that is my hypothesis and general situation. So if you go to time step 1132, when they do this, you'll see it says Satellite 348. And I feel like this is a crucial hint on what's going on when it comes to mutants and the Inhumans combination, and leads to other things as well. So let me explain. See, if you look for Avengers 348, you'll see that it actually has Vision, and it's basically like a rebirth for Vision to be more human. And in the episode, there's a love interest or an interest of his called Crystal. And if you remember, Crystal was actually a character in the Inhumans TV show, or the Inhumans comic book altogether, which I don't know why I'm referencing to just the TV show. But in the comic book, she's part of the Inhumans. But the reason I'm referencing the TV show is because in the Inhumans TV show, they use the Inhumans characters as mutants. So characters like Scarlet Witch, aka Wanda, and her brother Quicksilver were known as Inhumans and not mutants. But then all of a sudden we see a reference here to Satellite 348 where she's getting Vision, and it could just be, if you look at an episode here or the comic book, it could be just a reference of Vision being more human, but I think this goes deeper into Crystal and the Inhumans and the whole mutant Inhuman connection, and how they changed things to make mutants more Inhumans in their world, because mutants were taken out of the equation in the beginning, not the end, in the beginning. And again, I will get in depth when we get to the cameo character. Let's go on to the next Easter egg. Now we go back to the actual television show Wanda thing, however you want to look at it. And for this one, I want to go ahead and go into depth about just something cool that a lot of people might not notice unless you're a hardcore fan. But you'll notice that on the right-hand side, Billy is wearing red, brown, and black. And then, of course, Tommy on the left-hand side is wearing green, white, or green, white, and gray. The reason I bring this up is because if the characters of Billy and Tommy is actually Wiccan and Speed. So, for example, if you, like I said, if you notice, Billy's actually Wiccan, so he's wearing the red and black and brown that you see referenced in the comic book right below. And of course, the same thing with Speed, aka aka Tommy, is wearing the green, black, and white, or green, white and gray, which is again a reference to his comic book. So I like that they use the colors of Billy and Tommy's mutant characters of Speed and Wiccan to show you which character is which. It's a very nice little hint right there. Then this leads us to Sparky, which is the dog. Sparky is actually a character in the comic book as well. If you remember, I actually referenced the issue of the comic books where Vision actually made his own family, but it didn't include Wanda, and he actually made his own dog. It was a green dog, but it was the same type of dog, and that is Sparky. Now, unfortunately, as you know in the episode, Sparky doesn't last long, and I think it's because maybe they didn't want to keep it as a continuation no matter what, whether it being because of Sparky being green or because it's a different family relationship. Either way, I like the hint of Sparky. Now, as the episode goes along, you see, of course, that we have them trying to infiltrate. We find out the clothes that that she brought back from Westville are bulletproof, and of course, Wanda was the one that created those over her. But there's some things I feel like are Easter eggs more to common knowledge of Disney as a production, anything else. Because see, in this scene right here, you see that they talk about how Wanda could have probably taken down Thanos, which of course there's a couple times that she tried, especially in Endgame. But then Jimmy in the background says, "So could Captain Marvel." And then all of a sudden you see on Monica Rambeau's face of like a face of disdain. This might be a deep cut more than anything else. And the reason I say that is this. If you remember, Monica Rambeau is the daughter of Maria Rambeau from the Captain Marvel movie, and Maria Rambeau was friends with Carol Danvers in that movie. And Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, is played by Brie Larson. Well, Brie Larson has been using her motives of being this big superstar to push her ideas and everything. And Disney's not been liking it. That rumors are they're going to replace her with a new Captain Marvel. And, you know, this might be a nod to that because her disdain for Captain Marvel, or maybe just a storyline based. I'm not sure. But if you're not aware, Monica Rambeau is actually supposed to take over the lineage as Captain Marvel, as you see in the picture below. So to see that, and that might be a reference to what they're talking about now. I'm not sure what her look for was exactly, but it does bring up a past, and it does bring up the idea of her being Captain Marvel. Let's continue. Next, we get into the computer that Vision introduces to his company, company's thing, more the email situation. Now, in this email, this is where Vision becomes aware of what Wanda's doing. But I tried to find an Easter egg here. The only Easter egg I could say is the Commodore 64 being part of the 80s. But I'm putting this on the screen as a reference to maybe there's an Easter egg I don't see here that also could connect to what I'm talking about and what the end of this video will refer to as well. So if you see it there, comment below. Or if you see any other Easter eggs I didn't see, comment below as well. Now we get to the point where Wanda's actually finds the finds the drone, and then sends it back and comes out of the world. She states in this, "No one will ever take it away from me again." I think she's talking about Vision in this situation. But when the drone happens, there's also something else that I want to go into reference to. You see, when the boys are looking for Sparky, Tommy says to Wanda, do you have a brother?" And again, she states yes, she does, and it goes back to another reference back to Quicksilver and everything. It's always going back to Quicksilver in her head. Well, here's another situation. You see, when they stated that, the mailman said that don't worry, you'll find your dog. Your mom won't let that happen, or something. That it was a reference to her being able to find the dog because she has control, like the mailman is aware of it. My thing is there is control from Wanda in this whole situation, but I feel like there are other things at hand when it comes to other outside forces. And I think that Wanda also tries to tell us. Even though it looks like Wanda's normal here in this scene, I think there's more to this than we know, and it has to do with one thing and one thing only. This is how Wanda is communicating with the world that she's in trouble. The commercials. Here's why I state this, okay? Every commercial we've had up until this point has something to do with Hydra. It's always been Hydra, 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 Hydra. It's always been Hydra. And Hydra only pokes their head out in the commercials. But it's not like Hydra's saying it, it just says Hydra. It's a hint to Hydra. But this is the first commercial that has nothing to do with Hydra. And that is right here, Lagos. All right? If you remember in the episode, they talk about how there's the whole thing about the mishap in Lagos, Nigeria, where if you remember, in Captain America's Civil War, they were going to take down Crossbones, and she accidentally killed some civilians that got injured and killed in that situation, and that started the whole Civil War situation. And she felt grief for what happened, that it made her sad. Now, here's the thing. I think that she's trying to warn people that Hydra has control over her, and as she's communicating with them, she's also finding out that they're looking at her as well. And in return, I think she gave a warning, because let me explain to you why. Here's what happens in this commercial, and you tell me if I'm wrong, okay? Again, remember, Lagos is a city in Nigeria where the Avengers fought Crossbone in Captain America Civil War. But at the end of this commercial, it states, Lagos, when you make a mess and didn't mean to. It's like she's stating, hey, I messed up, I didn't mean to. But I think it's always in her head she's trying to communicate, and now she's dropped the Hydra thing because she's communicating something different. But I think Hydra has control over her. 100% I think Hydra has control over her. For what reason, I don't know. And then, of course, we get to the point where Vision doesn't remember his past, just what's been told to him or sublimity set up for him by Wanda. And also, he brings up something that I brought up at my first review. I brought this up. There is no children in Westville, and Vision realizes this too. Until when their kids are born, that there's no other children for the twins to play with or be around. That has been a central theme of the whole situation. Is there has been no children until now, which is Wanda and Vision's children. And this is something I point out before that I don't think anybody else has said. They might have, I might not. I can't watch every review, but it's just another Easter egg of how things are going a little bit crazy, and it also might have to do with Speed and Wicked, aka Tommy and Billy. And now we get to the nitty gritty, the thing that I knew since I first saw the cast for WandaVision and knew this was the scenario, and everyone was telling me it's Mephisto, and other people were saying it's Speed, and so on and so forth. They're changing it because they don't want to believe anything, because Kevin Feige himself stated that there would be no reference point outside of maybe Deadpool to the Fox world. But then, of course, we get this. Evan Peters as Quicksilver. Let me repeat this again. Evan Peters as Quicksilver from the Fox universe, playing Quicksilver in the MC universe. Now that I've gotten here, I can finally sum up everything I'm talking about. The Inhumans Mutants reference, that has to be an Easter egg. That's no joke to what I feel is a hypothesis, and let me explain, alright? I explained this in the other part of the video, but in case you didn't see it, I will leave a link in the description, but I'm going to try to rephrase it here, and I might even add more to not have as much, so see that other part of the video. Anyway, here we go. Here's what I think happened. I think that in the MCU world, mutants existed at one point, alright? But what ended up happening is Wanda had to change time altogether in order for the heroes to win. And let me explain. Thanos, when he did the snap, you heard Doctor Strange said there was only one moment, and he scanned all the moments that there could be, alright? Which means he should have seen mutants in there for some reason, somewhere. I'm thinking that he communicated with Wanda at one point and stated, hey, if we have mutants, then Thanos would become more powerful than we can ever think of. So they have to take out Galactus. They have to take out Apocalypse. They have to take out Mr. Sinister. All these major characters that were part of the world that they felt were too strong. So at this point, keep in mind, when he's warning Wanda about this, she's a mutant, she's Scarlet Witch, okay? And her brother is Quicksilver. but they're not known. They're known as mutants at this point. And he tells her, we have to take out the mutants. Mutants cannot exist in this world if we're going to win the battle with Thanos. So she uses her reality altering skills and changes the course by splitting things by saying no more mutants, just like in the comic book, and makes it to where the mutants in the X-Men world go over to Fox, and then of course no, there's no mutants in the MCU world. But she sticks around with her brother in the new MCU world, but can't, the closeness that Wanda and Petra, aka Quicksilver, have is so close that she would never want to kill her brother. So what does she do? She makes a Quicksilver in the MCU and a Quicksilver in the X-Men universe. And then boom, we have two multiverses, aka universes, which leads into Doctor Strange's multiverse. Here's my thinking. I'm thinking that the reason that the Quicksilver in the Age of Ultron movie died is so that this Quicksilver can't come to be. And it actually works in the background because Fox said that they can use Quicksilver one time. That's why he ended up getting killed off. But they could use Wanda more often. This. I think they picked Wanda just in case they did end up acquiring X-Men, and they could just bring Quicksilver back. And with this being the favorite Quicksilver that people loved, it's a perfect setup to say that there were two Quicksilvers. They had to kill off one in order for this one to come back. Okay, it's like bringing a balance. So I think the whole no more mutants thing actually already happened before the MCU existed. And now Quicksilver is back because now that Thanos is dead and she can alter the universe, yeah, she may have recast it, but she recast it as the original Quicksilver that she sent over to the Fox mutant universe. I think that's what happened, guys. I think we already had mutants in the MCU, and we're just bringing them back in. But I want to know what you guys think. Make sure you go ahead and tell me in the comments below if you think my theory is good. This is another reason why Deadpool would be involved, and maybe they can bring Hugh Jackman. I think all the X-Men in the Fox universe has a chance to come over on our end, or they're just going to recast and bring in the crucial ones, like Deadpool and, Evan Peters as Quicksilver. You guys tell me in the comments below what you think of my idea. But anyway, I want to thank you all for watching. This is part 2 of my review. As always, I am Putty Man with Gamer Potheads. I love you guys. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you comment below on your thoughts on my theory. And as always, do not forget what will tie score. Peace out. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to y'all later.